All right, first of all, how about for the band? What a great atmosphere to have tonight. So I'll just start with telling a little story because I think it really is indicative of this evening and how we got here. The band reached out and they just said, hey, we love what you're doing. We love what you're about. Is there anything we can do to be helpful? And, and I try to do most of my own messages, so it sat there for way too long, which, by the way, over 100 text messages today, not counting Facebook, not counting email. So if you tried to get a hold of me today, I'm sorry. It's probably going to take a while to get back to you, but I appreciate it. I do. I said, hey, what about election night? That would be great to have. And to come in tonight, to see this place packed, to see them playing, and just to have the vibe and the energy to celebrate a victory tonight. So just a couple minutes ago in the back, Mayor Larson did call me. We had a polite conversation, and she congratulated us on our victory tonight. She was kind and said, I look forward to working with you on a transition, and I look forward to working with her on that transition. And I do, thank you. And I will say how important that is for our community. We need to have a smooth transition. We watch what happens at the state and too often the national level. That's not what we want to do in our community. We want to move forward from a challenging election and bring our community back together. Whether you supported me or whether you didn't, I am still a mayor for this entire community. And I love, yes. And more than one of you said tonight, as I kind of made my rounds, and I apologize, I never kind of got quite into the middle of the audience here tonight. What I love tonight is I can look and I can see someone more to the right, I can see someone more to the left, and I see a whole bunch of people in the middle that I don't know where they're at. And that is what I've always been about. Like, I am willing to work with you wherever you are at. If we have 5% in common, let's work on that 5%. Yeah. And usually we find out that we have more than 5%, but when we start at the extremes and think somehow we're going to work together, it doesn't work. So I'm thrilled at the spectrum of supporters that we have here this evening. And before I get into my comments, I also want to say, I know who is here this evening. And I know that tomorrow I'm going to have a whole bunch of new friends. True story. This isn't my first rodeo. But the ones in the room, you brought me to the dance, and I will never forget that. And I may get emotional tonight. I'm going to try and not do that, but I am so incredibly grateful. I can look out and I can see faces who volunteered at races, who volunteered at events, who came to Leicester, who came to Chester, who helped us all along the way. And I am incredibly grateful for that. And I'm going to talk about that, but it is something that was a hallmark of this campaign. I also just want to mention, there's at least 5 of you who drove up from the cities to be here tonight. And I am so thankful for you making that trip. So thanks for being here tonight. The inauguration will be in January. Stand by for additional details. But I hope everyone here, and I know all those new friends, will join us that evening as we move forward into Duluth's next chapter, into implementing what something different looks like. And I want to start, thank you. Again, I just want to start by, let's move this one away. All right. I want to start by saying how proud I am of what we did over the last 10 months. And if you followed any of our stuff over the last few days, the final rebuttal, my closing argument last night, some of this will sound familiar, but I think it's important to say again. We had 2,014 one-on-one and small group conversations. We had 266 events and gatherings. 1,674 of you subscribed to our newsletter. I'll probably do one more tomorrow. 2,194 of you are hosting a yard sign. I just want to put that in perspective. When I was a state senator, which was essentially representing the city of Duluth, I had about 350. 2,194 of you had a yard sign. Also, Also, 100 of you have the jumbo ones, which blows my mind. My friend Pat is out here, and he had one of our first ones, and I drive by it on the way from my house to Scholastica, and I'm always a little embarrassed. Like, no one wants to see their name that big on a sign, but 100 of you want it. In fact, what killed me was as these got out, you would call and say, hey, I got a little one. I'd really like a big one. How do I make that happen? I'm like, okay. We'd call Nathan Bentley at Advantage, and we'd order more. So, 596 individual campaign contributions, 87% of which were from Duluth and our near neighbors. 72, not cities, not DC, Duluth. 72% of which were $100 or less. And that are the numbers that we see reflected tonight. We also framed the issues. There was no debate on the issues because they were your big issues. They were a direct result of all of those conversations. Those thousands of conversations with residents from one end of Duluth to the other, and not just a few minutes at a door, but an hour. And you know this, usually more than an hour, because you wanted to be heard. You felt like you hadn't been heard for a long time. You felt like what you were seeing and experiencing was not being recognized. And there was a disconnect. And you were grateful that someone was willing to come and chat with you about that. And that is my style. I like to sit. I like to listen. I like to ask questions. I like to take notes. And as I took notes over almost 4 months, your 5 big issues arose. It was clear as I went back and looked at where the overlap was and the intersections were in the conversations. Housing across all income levels, growing our commercial tax base, streets. I see John in the back, our video guy. He knows we always said this in all caps with many exclamation marks, streets, downtown Duluth, and affordable property taxes. And I am so proud not only of being right on the issues, but how we went about doing this campaign. We were positive, we were forward-looking, and we focused on those issues. We were never negative, and we were never attacking. And tonight, thank you. And it was tempting, right? I mean, 9 attack mailers, billboards, social media ads, websites, text messages. I mean, you know, at one point I'm like, God, maybe I am a terrible person. But I was committed to our values. I was committed to our values that we said on January 12th, standing in the cold outside the Piedmont Community Club, where I know many of you were with us. And that was that even in the way we campaign, we will expect more and do better. We all say we want that, and yet we go negative. We go negative in state races. We go negative in congressional races. We go negative in DC races. And maybe it was the naive civics teacher in me, but I'm like, not in Duluth. We are a big, small town. We're 7 degrees of separation. We're 1. If you don't know me, somebody you do does know me. And I thought, here is where we can actually make a clear distinction and stay positive and stay forward-looking and stay focused on the issues and win. And I am so proud that tonight that is what we showed, not just Duluth, but Minnesota, because people have been watching. So I do want to say a few thank yous to our team, RFD, Roger for Duluth. You know, these are folks who were on board when it was uncomfortable to be on board. You're taking on a 2-term incumbent. There were sort of understood that there might be repercussions, penalties to be paid if we were not successful. And yet these folks said, I'm in. Lindsay, Maya, Carrie, Scotty, John, Ryan, Jan, Sam, Charity, Jess, Amy, Annabelle, Krista, Amber, and Brianna. This was our core team. So many accomplished, smart, professional, and mostly females who were interested in supporting this effort. Please give them a round of applause. I have to laugh a little because as I approach them, one of my joys is recruiting and building great teams. And as I approached these individuals, I had in mind kind of what I thought they could do. And most had never done anything like this before. And their responses went something like this: I don't know anything about politics, but I'm in. Did you think, friends, back then that this would consume your life for almost a year? No, because you hadn't done this before. Frankly, I hadn't done something like this before. But we took on forces from DC. We took on forces from St. Paul, and not just held our own, but won tonight. So friends, I hope that you are proud of what you've done. I am so damn proud of you. And I hope that you made new friends along the way. Friendships that I know will last a lifetime. Friendships that I hope for you will last a lifetime. You know, when I began this journey over a year ago, it started with people, frankly more than a year ago, it started with people saying, you know, I think you should. I think you should run for mayor. You know, I know you would never do this, but I think you should run for mayor. I don't know why you would ever do this, but I think you should run for mayor. And some of you have heard me talk to this, and at first I was like, you're right, not interested, right? I mean, I'd spent a year in Afghanistan, wasn't home for that long, left again at the start of COVID, was over in Italy for 3.5 months, came home for all of 2 weeks, stepped in at the deck to try and provide leadership there during the darkest days of the pandemic. Finally, I was like, man, I got some free time. I can actually maybe take the boat out, maybe do some things that I want to do for a while. And yet that's when you all started having that conversation. And when I stepped back, I realized that what you were saying you were concerned about were the very things that I also was concerned about. You know, and maybe I blame it on the Navy, but when I understand a mission, I can't walk by it. So at that point, I was like, okay, I'm listening, and I'm a person of faith, so I prayed about it and was like, okay, God, I keep trying to turn away from this, and you keep putting it back in my lap, so I'm going to listen, and I'm going to have the conversations. You know, and then I sat and I looked at the numbers and realized 2007 was the last time over 50% of Duluth voters voted in a race for mayor. And 4 years ago, 2/3 didn't even vote. So as I came tonight and was hearing the numbers that we were seeing from all over town, I knew that regardless of how this evening went, we had done a public good. People showed up, they engaged, they voted. And friends, that's good for Duluth and it's good for democracy. But I have to be honest, winning is better. So moving forward, you know, President Obama said the point of winning isn't just to celebrate. The point of winning is that we get to do the work. So first, I could use your help picking up yard signs. No, for real. It's like there's almost 2,300 of them out there. So I will go out tomorrow and I will spend the day picking up yard signs. It's my thing. I've done it every single time. There's nothing that annoys me more than when a race is over and there's still signs out there. And in a race like this, where it was hotly contested, It's important that we pack that away and we go back to being friends and neighbors and Duluthians and move forward. And one of the best ways to do that is to put the politics behind us. So help me out. I will be out there, but watch your email. If you're willing to police your neighborhood and pick a few up, we'll send you a note, tell you where you can drop them off. And then we'll figure out where to store them in case we need them, a few years down the road. So, and like I said, Mayor Larson and I had a nice conversation for a few minutes. And next week I will send her a letter. And I will do a few things because I really want a good transition to the next administration. I will request meetings with key leadership, the city administrator, the city attorney, the police chief, the fire chief, and our finance and budget staff. We are in the season of adopting the levy. We are in the season of getting ready for the next legislative session, and we do not want to miss a beat, and we won't if we are able to work together and make this the smoothest transition possible. I will request transition space in City Hall so that I have the opportunity to have those conversations and start to feel the rhythm of the place and start to learn the organizational culture and not to know just the leadership, but the everyday staff that we count on to do those things that we most want done. And I would hope that tonight's results also motivate the current administration and council to consider how Duluthians clearly feel on things like another property tax increase, how they feel on investing $24 million of our remaining American Recovery Act funds, invest them in infrastructure, how they feel about pumping the brakes on Lester sale and closure. We need to stop and pause that conversation. You've all heard me speak multiple times to the practical and tangible steps that we can take moving forward on the 5 big issues. So I would also say tonight that no one should be surprised in office that this is where I will focus my attention, as well as the fiscal and staff resources of the city. As so many of you have said to me over the last 10 months, I just want to see the city do city things again. And we will do city things again. That is what local government is about. So Duluth friends that are listening elsewhere, I've spent nearly 20 years of my adult life in service to our community, to our state, to our nation. Time on the city council, time in the Minnesota House, time in the state Senate. Serving as your next mayor will be the service of my lifetime. Oh, it's okay, it's okay. Hey, military friends, it's dusty in here, right? Serving, this work will not be easy. I know that. I will make mistakes. I know that. But you will never doubt my work ethic or my passion for our community. I love this place with a passion, and we all want to leave it better than we found it. But this is what gives me comfort, and this is what gives me solace, and this is what gives me confidence. I also know I will not be doing this work alone. You all are going to be doing it with me. Thank you so much, Duluth. Let's take a few months to let the dust settle from not just tonight, but the last 10 months. Let's rest for a moment, and then let's get to work. Thank you.